So yeah, welcome back to QUADPOD episode 6. I am joined with the guys, Mr SyntheticFPV. Ryan, how's it going, man?
Good on you, bro. Sorry, man. I'm eating.
No, it's all good, bro. It's all good. I hope you're enjoying that there. I'm joined by Mr. Jadon, Farmlifefpv. How's it going, bro?
Yeah, going good.
Lekker. And then I'm joined with Mr Grizz3lyfpv, also known as Buks. How's it going, man?
How's it? Nice to be here.
Oh, thanks for joining us on the podcast, man. Podcast.
Lekker.
Pod. But yeah, so thanks for joining, guys. It's nice to have you guys on here, and so just gonna kick it off with a couple of things that we're gonna be talking about today. Starting off with, I think, one of the most important things. Well, actually, not important things, but something that we left off with on the last episode, and that's WhatsApp groups. I think it's pretty important for guys to be a part of WhatsApp groups, especially when it comes to the FPV community. What do you guys think?
100% agree. It's essential if you want to feel like 100% part of the community, in my opinion.
Look, I think it's essential to at least be part of one, or at least the one that's in your area.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're not going to connect with the community, and that's a big part of this sport, is the social element.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, especially someone from your area. I mean, it's always fun having a couple of guys around, learn something from each other. And
Yeah, I definitely think you should be, especially if you are going to be starting out. If you know a friend that's flying, ask them if you can maybe be part of a group. I know there's actually quite a few groups out there that you can hop onto, and I mean the guys just share the invite link, and they get everybody to join it. The guys are normally helpful and friendly on the groups. You can ask anything, may it be technical related, may it be just asking about PIDs or software related, and I think it's also a good place to start a conversation and not necessarily go into too much depth about something, because I know WhatsApp groups tend to chow people's battery lives on today's phone. But yeah, it's a good place to start off, especially if you're looking to join the community and so forth.
Well, before I even had a drone, I was on the communities and the WhatsApp groups, and that's how I got excited about the sport before I even got my first drone. I mean, I met guys at a place they were flying, and I think it was Goosey added me to a group, and then that's where I could ask questions and get acquainted with the sport even before spending a rand. So it has its place.
Sorry, what you were saying, Jadon?
No, I was just saying that's epic.
Yeah, it's also good. It's a good place to start, like I said, to start off and to to get to know the community also, and also for the community to get to know you. I think it's definitely a good place to start.
But even further than that, like, I just wanted the sport. So like, even before you know anyone in the community, you can ask, what is it really? It's like, and you can start finding out about what's this different than other hobbies, and like the actual technical stuff about joining a specific hobby. Like if you want to join a printer hobby, you want to actually know a little bit about it before you spend money on it. And that's where it was for me. Like, I had to decide, is this something I want to get into? And I could ask any question and it would have an answer.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think the guys are shy to share that invite link to the groups. If I could say, you just ask the guys and they pop the link on the group, and pop, you send it to your friend, whoever's keen to join, and then they pretty much hop on, take it from there. But yeah, I think that's a pretty cool way to communicate and to get to know the community. Also, especially if you're an outsider, in terms of like if you chilling, far out, and you're not for instance, I mean, let's say for you, Ryan, who's the guys that are pretty much like on the outskirts, not in Pretoria there with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, you ask. I mean, I went ahead and I went on a sale page. Who in my area like flies FPV? And I said I must message another guy, and messaged, and I found actually and that's how it all started. Basically, one of the oaks in the community was actually racing at the time, and that's what actually got me interested in racing. So there's definitely like a snowball effect if you do take the approach of trying to join a WhatsApp group.
Yeah, I think also, if I must be honest, when I started out flying, there wasn't really, like, should I say, a variety of groups like there is today, to be able to, just join a group and meet up with a bunch of friends. So, whereas today, I mean, there's so many variety of groups. I mean, you get groups of guys that are selling stuff. You get groups of guys that just, specifically speak about different classes of drones. You get different groups for different, leagues, if I could say. Whereas back in the day, everything was just by emails and that. So I think definitely the communication from back in the day to what it is today, in terms of FPV, has gotten a lot more easier, if I could say, to get it across to people.
Yeah, no, it definitely has. I mean, when I started, there was a Slack group. I think, the Slack even still around, I don't know. But it was a Slack group or an email group. And then about, 3-4 months after I started, I got invited to the WhatsApp group, the main one.
Quad Squad, yeah, that's where I started, on Quad Squad. And then we noticed that a lot of guys, especially in Pretoria, like I was saying earlier to Lyle, in Pretoria, it's a little bit of a different mindset when it comes to meetups, and we'll cover that a little bit later. But I mean, it was particularly important for Pretoria guys to talk on their own to discuss the meetups, and it was getting annoying to other people on Quad Squad, for example. So we created a Pretoria group, and I mean, we were 30 pilots then, I think. And that started, and I think Pretoria group's full, if I remember right. And I mean, it is important to manage the groups right, people that run the groups, but it has its place to be area bound, because it allows people who are in that area to not have to read through 300 Quad Squad messages every day to get the info they want.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Exactly.
I also think it, like I said, other than it running your battery flat, I mean, sometimes you take out your phone and you've got over 100 messages from a specific group. But I mean, sometimes you do have to put a bit of a, manage a group, because let's be honest, the topic can get a bit much. If someone discusses something and you got everybody busy discussing that one topic, I think it pretty much not destroys the group, but it gets a bit much, and that's what causes people to leave as well sometimes.
Yeah, well, a good example is the for sale group. I mean, they don't take no BS there, and that group's permanently full. And that's just because it's managed well. Yeah,
so I think that's also, but it's good because it means people are on top of the admin when it comes to WhatsApp groups. Because like I said, it's probably the main reason why you get a lot of people that leave, because some people join a group just to be notified about different events and different things. They don't want to be specifically discussing about someone's pit tuning, on that group, if I could say. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much. So if you guys, if you're looking at starting out, or you want to recommend some information to a friend, I'll definitely tell them to get involved in a WhatsApp group, especially in their area, if I could say. But yeah, just get involved in WhatsApp groups. It's the best way to meet up and fly with people and get to know the community better. And also speaking about that, I mean, if we had to think about trying to, spread awareness about South African FPV around the country, how would you guys look at approaching that? I mean, if you had to try and do something, or give someone or give the guys advice on how to try and get the community aware of the sport and things, how would you guys try and approach that?
I mean, I think generally you'd want to have public events, like for instance racing and freestyling. Like FDL is doing a good job at it, especially when they.
Big props to FDL so far.
Yeah, especially when they do it at I think it's Purple Kai, if I remember correct. I mean, it's right there by restaurants, and a lot of people take it. That's when you get a lot of. So yeah, just have events and have them public. Make sure all your paperwork is correct for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, it also comes down to the pilot. I mean, I remember early times when we went to a place with the guys we flew at, we would do the effort. If you see someone standing, looking interested, but maybe too shy or don't really want to just walk up to you, you'd do the effort and walk to them and show them and give them a pair of goggles. That's the biggest way to get people involved, I think. Because seeing something on a video and seeing it in real life are two worlds apart.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're from a town like me and there are only about a handful of people.
I'm sitting with the same problem.
Is
All solo, bro.
I'm sitting with an even worse problem. There is no one in my town or in my area that flies anything described as an FPV quad or an FPV wing or anything. The closest I've gotten is someone, I think there's one person in Canada who flies a DJI Mavic. That's it.
Yeah, and I think, Jadon, you've got the most empty space.
Yeah.
Farm life.
Yeah,
but like
in the name.
if I could ask, like, do you think if we had to, take these things? I know, I think Mark, Rock on FPV, and Timmy, and then went to a school, and they actually went to go and demo, like FPV racing and that. Do you think if you had to approach, communities and like schools per se, around your area, do you think people would be more involved in the stuff? Or
I think it's awesome for hype.
Done it.
Yeah, you guys have done it. Go, Jadon.
No, we've done it. Like, we did it for the Curo schools, and we're trying to roll it into basically every Curo in the country, instructing the teachers on how to do it, and then letting them relay it to the students at every school. We might look at getting it into the government schools in the area soon, depending how things go with trying to find a cheaper way to get into FPV, because it's kind of difficult, especially in the primary schools, because we have a lot of primary schools in Canada that would be interested in it. But it's difficult to get someone for a grade 3 to spend $6,000 to get into FPV decently, or like $4,000. We're trying to find a cheaper way, like somewhere at preferably around $2,000, to try and get someone into FPV.
Yeah, I would say high school is a better age to get people involved, but
Yeah.
that's an awkward age for teenagers to pick up something weird, and that's the whole thing I see. Like that initial inlay, that initial $6,000, a high school guy or a primary school guy doesn't have it.
Like we started it in the high schools for Curo, and then when we weren't going to do it in the primary schools initially, and then the amount of interest we had from the primary school students and parents was the reason we actually started doing it in the primary schools.
okay, so it is something that people are definitely looking at.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's guys overseas that are also trying to do that. So you guys think it'll definitely be like a way of helping the community grow and in terms of getting people's interest and things like that?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, what do they call this? Esports. With the gaming and stuff. I mean, if they allow that, then obviously I think to approach more outdoorsy activity.
No, but it's more than that. Like at schools, you can approach it from the side set of that it's electronics, and they get to learn soldering. They get to learn what is resistance, what does the cap do. You can really do a lot of education based around it.
That's exactly the point of view we went in from.
Look, and not to say that. I mean, I did if I could say like civil technology, in high school and that. And just to work with electrical boards and things like that. So I definitely had my fair share on that side of things and how to solder and so forth.
But to be honest, do you want to solder a little?
Really.
No, you don't. You don't. That's the thing, exactly. You don't get that anymore. So it's more now. There's so many things that are subjected to, for a student to get themselves involved in. And like Ryan said, there's esports. So I'm pretty sure at some point that drones are definitely going to be like part of, let's say, robotics, if we could say.
Yeah.
In terms of, but you got to look at it's definitely got its upsides, but you got to look at its downsides as well in terms of safety. I mean, if you're going to be getting kids that are going to be flying 4 or 5 drones around, practicing, you're going to have to obviously build it in an environment, like a netted up environment, so that they don't crash into anybody. Just on
Or
the
give
side.
them whoops.
Oh yeah, you give them whoops.
Yeah, whoops. Let
Or
them
they,
learn- let them learn.
years ago they had shooting at school. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, I mean they still have archery, don't they? Archery. Shooting.
They had literally skate and target shooting with freaking big guns at school.
But yeah, I mean, other than school, I mean, how else is there a way to try and get people more aware of this kind of, let's say, hobby in a sense of manner?
I think the biggest problem is to get over this whole drones are bad thing that's been created by the media, because I see it here. Like, I've had a few guys, then they like see me pitch up and I like set up my gear, and if that drone takes to the air, you just see them disappear. They're like, "Ooh, drone's bad, get out of here." I've seen that happen so many times.
That's actually interesting because I haven't had that yet. Usually when I fly, I either have someone think I'm spying on them, but I haven't had that in ages, or I've seen people like walk up to us flying and then they'll be like, "What's that? And where do I buy one? Right now." And then the other thing that... Wait, no, okay. Lyle, please cut that section out there where I was just like randomly...
What?
Nothing. Okay. I lost my track of thought, so if it doesn't sound good, cut that out.
Okay, dude.
I'm saying I was flying on a rugby field, and I was like way on the other side of a double rugby field, and there was a guy practicing for rugby or athletics or something. I literally saw him running like he was practicing hard. I put my goggles on, I literally took off, and I hear the bucky leave. It was like he jumped in his car and ran away.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I suppose it also depends on what neighborhood and that you're in. I mean, if you're flying in a park, like that's probably the most comfortable place. Well, look, let's put it this way: a rugby field. Where we've got a bunch of rugby fields next to each other. I think that's the best place to obviously go and fly and test your drone and so forth. Obviously, once you get more comfortable, you fly in a much more proximity environment, and let's say parks with trees and chairs and so forth. And then after that, you pick it up a level and see how far you can push yourself. But coming back to the awareness of what's going on with this stuff. I mean, there's been so many times where not so many times, but there's been a few times where I can say that I've encountered like people trying to, force me off the goggle, if I could say. Like, it's forced me to come and land in immediately and, crash, like semi-crash my drone in front of me and, pop the goggle off to see what's happening around me. So it's not to say that it happens to everyone, but I've never encountered it where I could say where I got to a place and I started flying and someone just, poof, disappeared. People are normally cautious of what they see and then they assess the situation. But otherwise, yeah, just got people asking me, what's that? Where do I buy one? In a sense.
Interesting. So in terms of doing stuff to get the general community involved, like I've been to a couple shows at the Lawrenceford Market. My dad does the 3D printing and I generally go and like take a little corner of the table and like set up the quad, set up a little screen playing FPV videos, and then we generally get people come for the printing and then they see that and they're like, "Oh, that's cool."
Okay.
That's actually quite a cool idea.
Yeah, it's not bad. At like your local markets or things like that. Suppose it's just going the extra mile, eh? To get people interested. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if anybody out there can give us any suggestions on how to how to broaden the awareness of the FPV in the South African community, that would be great, But yeah, I mean, touching on that topic, do you guys think that the hobby in South Africa specifically, or maybe globally, if I could say, do you guys think the hobby's hit a bit of like a wall, if I could say? Has it definitely slowed down in terms of producing new hardware? Or look, the software side of things, I can definitely say has been like every day it feels like there's a new software that you got to load on your drone. But in terms of hardware, I mean, what would you guys say?
I wouldn't say hit a wall. I would say it's more like plateaued out. Like there was a massive spike in interest, and then it sort of has reached. I think every hobby has that. Like it spike and then it has to settle. and I think we've reached that point where it's settled in the number of people, but that just needs a boost somehow to lift that level a little bit.
I think that's going to happen when we start seeing not only DCL and DRL on TV. I think that's going to happen when we start having like South Africa's drone racing on TV, America's drone racing on TV, multi-GP on TV, that kind of thing. I think because when FPV first started, 90% about, I'd say, of the pilots were the people like most FPV pilots, like, okay, you've been involved in 3D printing, or you're a gamer or something, like you are working with technology a lot. Not the people that generally don't deal with the latest tech news every single day. And I don't think there's been that much of a plateau in other countries, but I think it's happened here mainly because of economy and other things. But in the richer countries, at least I haven't seen a plateau. But then again, I haven't seen a ton of new pilots either. So, but I haven't seen anyone leaving, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, like, who was it? Someone was telling me the other day, South Africa's annual drone part sales is equivalent to 1 month's sales in China. So it's like ridiculous.
Exactly, and I'm pretty sure it's equivalent to like 1 week sales in America.
Well, I definitely think, if I could definitely say, well, from you guys, listening to you guys, is the fact that it's probably gotten to a point where it is a hype, and then it's just now leveled itself out. And the people who come, I mean, I've seen so many people coming and also leaving the hobby at the same time, and some people also that has inspired me personally, if I could say, is just seeing them sell their gears. It's sad, but you got to also understand, like, it is what it is at the end of the day. But as for I think South African FPV, I think it's also at a point where you still get your people who are interested, but it's, I suppose, like, we've also got our pilots here. I mean, it's not to say that there's new pilots. I mean, you've got Wild Willy, you've got JetFPV, you've got all the guys who are commonly flying DRL and DCL, but you don't have anybody who's actually stepping up. Like, there's no newcomers. So after a while, it gets sort of repetitive, if I could say.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to see some new people. It's not nice always seeing the same people flying, the same race every single time with a different course coming in. So
yeah.
But yeah, I think that's definitely, well, not hitting the wall, if I could say, but due to the economy, like you said, Jadon, we definitely, there's no inspiration. I think if we had to get like an international pilot to come to South Africa, it would bump the fire up a bit. I don't know. What would you guys say?
Something's needed to bring it up, and I think, I don't know, like, it feels like there's not enough stock. Like, you want to boost it, but when you look for something, you have to really look through everywhere to find specific things. So it's not always accessible.
Yeah, not always accessible, but in terms of like trying to get the pilots fired up here, I mean, I think also if we had to get some guys from overseas, that would pretty much help the guys. Also give them a bit of that boost. I mean, if you had to have someone to come over, Jadon, who would you like want to come through the side?
Are we talking for like racing or for the freestyle guys?
No, for just in general, your all-time, let's say, FPV idol, if I could say.
It would probably be either BMS Thomas or Minchan.
Okay.
That would be racing focused, I think.
Yeah.
I'd like, the reason I say those two is I feel like they are both known very well, because I've noticed that the racing guys, the hardcore racing guys, show very little interest in freestyle. Like, if you tell them there's a freestyle pilot coming over from where, like, let's say we have Steel over,
true.
Half of the racing guys will just say, whatever, I don't care, he's a freestyle pilot. But I feel like for Minchan and those guys, because they freestyle, and BMS Thomas as well, because everyone knows them, like, I don't think there's a pilot in this country that hasn't at least heard of Minchan once. We'll probably come see him just to meet him. I don't know, I feel like there's less discrimination from the freestyle pilot side to racing than there is from racing pilot side, hardcore racing pilot side to freestyle. I could be wrong.
That's true, but let me promise you, if Mr. Steele's at an event, it will be there.
Yes.
Yeah, no. Regardless, I mean, let's be honest.
Well,
He's a pioneer in FPV,
Yeah,
so
he
it's
is.
not just we're not just meeting him in terms of just to, because he's a good
Or
freestyle
Chapu
pilot,
as
but
well.
he's want to shop it. Let's not even go there. But I think still he's not just a pilot. I think he's a pioneer actually in the FPV scene, just
He
in
is.
general. So
But
and
Sorry.
also touching on your thing, Jadon, with regards to Minchan. I think Minchan's not just a racing pilot, he's a flipping good freestyle pilot, man.
He
I
is.
mean, that guy's all round. Look, I've yet to see BMS Thomas actually do any freestyle, but his racing is phenomenal, so I can definitely agree on that with you. I don't know. It would be interesting.
Well, I saw that one video where what was that guy? He showed a nice, awesome, epic freestyle run, and then later in some comments somewhere, someone asked him how many GoPros did he use. So it was like a 2-minute clip, and he popped 8 GoPros. So I was like, yeah, that's not helping.
No, it's cheating.
Sorry, Ryan, what were you saying?
on the topic of who should you bring to get a crowd interested, I personally think there are more freestyle pilots than there are race pilots.
Well,
Yeah, they are.
in South Africa.
Yeah,
You guys think so?
yeah, definitely.
That's a very
Definitely.
tight. I think it's close together.
I don't know. I'd actually say there's more. Yeah, well, look, I'd say there's more park flyers than actually racing flyers
Yeah,
in
100%.
in South Africa. But I don't think there's more freestyle pilots than racing pilots, if I could say.
No, well, I think when we say freestyle pilots, we're talking about the guys who just go fly for fun.
exactly.
Yeah, your park flyers. Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, your park flyers are the guys that actually sit on YouTube and
Yeah,
look
do
at
it
all
really
these
well.
guys because they normally alone. I mean, I enjoy flying alone.
I don't.
I hate flying alone. So sick.
why?
I
Why do
love
you-
it.
It's horrible. I hate it too.
Why
Like-
though?
To give you an idea, sorry, this is just going back to the park flyer pilots thing. So there's 100 people on our local FPV group here in the Cape, and apart from a couple of them who I think are just old numbers and a couple of them who don't fly, let's say that's 80. We have about 15 pilots at a race. That means the other 65 are either just flat out not interested in racing, or they have a reason not to come to a race and they end up flying in parks. And I've seen that on just about every group. Like there's 3 or 4 or 5 people that come to the race, and then the rest will just fly at parks.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. But even those that don't say anything, you hardly ever hear about them. I would say that ratio is more like there's 100 people in a group and 40 ever participate in anything.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. The others just fly on their own.
I think for me personally, if I could say, I think we touched on this in a previous podcast, but if it was safer, if we were living in a safer environment, I'd definitely prefer to fly alone. Just because of the fact that I don't know, it's just I enjoy flying alone. There's nothing wrong with flying alone, but then there's nothing wrong with flying with mates. I think
No, look,
flying with mates
nothing
is-
wrong with flying with mates, but usually, or especially when I fly and I'm alone, then I choose a nice open field. And
Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
don't fly too far away from myself, so I'll easily see someone approaching, and I carry a self-defense firearm, so I'm pretty sorted in that aspect of flying alone.
Yeah,
Maybe the reason I hate flying alone so much is just that I do it all the time.
yeah.
Like,
I suppose you
I'll
can get
fly
over it
maybe once, maybe twice a month. Like a while ago, when one of the guys from Helderberg, who would literally come fly just about every second weekend, was still flying, I would fly maybe twice, 3 times a month with people. But otherwise, I would fly alone every single time I wanted to fly. And like after, I would say up until about a year ago, it didn't bother me at all. But lately, it gets boring. Like there's only so many freestyle tricks you can push yourself to do. There's only you can only push yourself to go so fast. And I feel like if you fly with people, this is always the experience I've had at least. You push
Yeah, no,
yourself
most
harder.
definitely.
There's a spirit behind it. You crashed epically, and now your quad's on fire. Everyone's cheering and running to help you. You crash epically, now your quad's on fire on your own. It's like, cool. Now I'm going to be out of the air for a month. This
Yeah.
sucks.
and you can't share it with someone, you know.
Exactly.
You can't have those
For
moments.
me, that was a big draw to the hobby, is the social element. Like, You can ask the Pretoria guys how many meetups I went to without a drone. There was a stint of like 6 months. I was at every single meetup without a drone.
Just like that's dedication, dude.
You can ask the Pretoria guys. There's a few of them that'll vouch. And for me, that's the point. It was a lot about the social element. So flying alone for me sucks, like straight up.
No, like I mean, I think, and like I said, I think I touched on this in the previous podcast. Was you can like I definitely prefer, put it this way, if I had to put a line in the middle, I definitely prefer to fly with mates more than to fly by myself. But there's nothing better than nothing that beats like flying on a nice open field, just you and the quad, you know, and then you just tuning that quad and you know, just something like that. Then you just get that nice pan with no one talking to you, or you know, you just got a nice tune jamming on your cell phone, or you know, you're just cruising. So and that's what I'm talking about, you know, not like I wouldn't prefer to fly by myself. I'd prefer to fly with mates, but it's those moments that you just, you know, that it's nice. It's just you and the quad, if I could say.
Oh, that's exactly what I mean as well. I mean, I go out, also put a chill tune on and try and freestyle as close to the tune as I can.
Yeah.
So when I do editing, then it just looks a little bit more natural.
But Jadon, touching on your subject with the whole pushing each other, going a little bit off the subject, I actually have a mate who I used to do BMXing with, and we used to stay in the same town and that, and we used to ride together like practically every single day, and we pushed each other continuously. So I do understand what you mean by that fact, and I mean eventually he got sponsored, you know, and I was pretty much just chilling. So it just goes to show, if you do push each other, you can definitely achieve different
also,
heights.
if you want to do a specific trick and you get stuck in a rut, like it just needs that someone to look over your shoulder and say, hey, just hold it a little bit longer. There we go. Because you, for some reason, just doing a stupid split S. I'm just making up an example, and it just doesn't feel right. You don't quite know what you're doing wrong. But if there's someone on a second goggles, they can be like, well, just hold it a little bit longer upside down. So like having someone to like second eye and give you the opinion, that's what helps you to get better.
Exactly. And like the other thing that I would say I've noticed when flying with people is not so much, I'm not saying like a meetup where there's 30 people at a place and you fly for a whole day, you get 2 packs in. That to me, not it sucks, but I don't. When there's a meetup that big, I take a quad and a battery and I aim to fly 1 battery. For the rest of the day, I just hang around. But my ideal sort of thing of flying with guys is getting like 3 or 4 guys over, maybe. And then if it's racing guys, then we set up a track, we all find frequencies, and then the idea is we can run constantly. It doesn't matter who plugs in at what time, you can just carry on flying. And then if they're freestyle guys, obviously it's a little bit different because you're flying higher power levels to go further and like do more risky stuff. But still, having too many people is also not nice. But then again, to me, having no people also sucks. So like 1 or 2 people or 3 or 4 people is where I'd say that's like enough people to have a lot of fun with. Any more than that, it starts getting less fun.
We had weekly meetups in Pretoria at some point where we literally had to start establishing frequency charts. We had there was a time when we had every single weekend 20 people meet up.
Yeah, I think there was one year in Capetown, as well, if I'm not mistaken, where the guys, I mean, the group channel was the people's frequency. There was a picture of the group's channel was literally the guys' frequency. So, and that's when I joined Capetown. Now, I mean, that group's icon has changed so many times. So I can definitely say the flying has gotten a lot less, if I could say. But then again, life gets busy, you know, people's jobs get involved, and just sometimes things change, you know.
And winter hits.
What it is. Winter hits as well, that's very true. The sun goes down at like freaking 5 o'clock and comes up at like 8 o'clock. But yeah.
And the other thing that I've noticed I feel like I say that phrase a lot, but is in terms of racing practice, I remember a while ago, especially in the Helderberg area, the guys would go and practice racing weekly. every single week, at least once, like on a Monday or a Wednesday, they'd go to a park. I would say on the group, I'm going to a park, taking my car and a generator with charge batteries and taking 6 gates. And then there'd be 10 people joining him. Now, if a guy does that once a month, it's a lot. And I think there's 1 or 2 guys that will do that, and they won't do it that often anymore. And I've noticed that racing on the farm, practicing by myself is not really fun at all, much really.
Yeah.
I don't know, just it's gotten boring. In the beginning it was fine, but now it's boring. So yeah, I just find it hard to practice as much as I used to and have as much fun as I used to with a lot of people coming over, because a lot of people don't come over anymore.
Yeah. Well, look, if I could say this, there's the upside of fuel that's just gone down recently. So,
You know what
people can
happens when
start
they
being
bring
happy,
the
man.
fuel price down?
Yeah, dude, people start going further.
They only drop the fuel price so they can pick it up more next month.
Let's see, why do you bring up the negative side of things? Gotta look at the positivity for the time being. But
5 cents down, 2 rand up.
But speaking about the FPV side of things, going back there, if I could ask, each one of you is like, Jadon, what if you had to say what is your biggest achievement? Like, what is your aim for being like flying drones and that? Are you looking to achieve something out of it? Is it something you're just looking to enjoy on the sideline? What's your on take?
I'm not actually 100% sure. Like, I'd probably say being to China and getting my like Protea colors for it. That's probably about as high as I could have ever thought I would have achieved before that. But now that I've done that, I honestly don't know what else I could do, apart from obviously become world number 1. But that's going to take a lot of effort, and if it'll ever happen. But it's mainly now just going to be something I want to be in for as long as possible and be with the community and like be that guy that helps everyone out. I don't know. It's become more of a serious hobby than like I have to do this, I have to achieve that now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And yourself, Grizzly?
Look, for me, I used to lay on the ground when I was a little kid, staring at pigeons flying over my head and like dipping over the fences and through the tiny gap here, and that was always my dream, to fly. And so when I saw FPV, I was like, this is as close as I can humanly get to flying. So the freedom of flying is what drives me, and just like experiencing that. And that's why I still fly box goggles, because it's massively about the immersion for me. And yes, I can fly better, I can fly more accurately, I can hit smaller gaps with fat shocks, for example. But I want that immersion experience like I'm flying, and that's what drives me.
Well, look, I haven't been flying for a month, and the whole reason is because I'd like to have new scenery. I think I've already like outflown the back of my yard and a couple of the spots around. So I'll definitely, when I get new spots, that's my whole thing. What I'm trying to get at is I do it in a videography type of sense. So if it's not new scenery, it's not fun for me. So I'm not aiming to get anything out of it. Purely good video from new places where I go and see.
Okay, so you're more about the aerial photography side of things.
Yeah, I can say that.
Okay, so not about the freestyle or the racing or anything. You're not looking to put yourself in at least in the top 10 of top 10 SA pilots or freestyle.
I mean, yeah, look, that will be extremely cool, but I won't necessarily try and go and practice every day to get there by somehow, then perfect.
Okay,
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I think for me personally, if I had to say my end, well, not my end goal, but if I could say something I'd like to achieve, is definitely something with regards to freestyle. I think I definitely enjoy the freestyle of things. Why I enjoy FPV so much, same as you, Buks, if I could say, it's definitely the closest feeling to flying, in terms of just being, I think mine started off with being also a little kid, and my uncle had a garage full of planes, and I think that's where I pretty much enjoyed anything that takes to the sky, if I could say, and you can control it with the remote. Got me super pumped. So drones, before drones, helis, planes, those things. So, but I think my end goal is also to capture life at a different angle. Altogether, I mean, not many people get to see. Everybody gets to see, the world from above, like from a DJI or whatever the case may be. But no one can see like a drone going through a gap specifically, and get that let's say that exact video to show the world, if I could say, again from a different angle.
We were at some place and we went for a hike, and there was this like lookout, and we all stood there, and it was all epic, and you walked over this bridge, and there was like this little outcrop on the other side, and I took my drone up, and I flew. No one realized that there was actually nothing underneath the piece of rock we were standing on. Like from all the other angles, it looked like it was attached, but only when I was on the drone and I looked back, I was like, "Huh, we're actually standing on a little ledge that's got nothing under it."
Yeah, but it's actually crazy. I mean, that like back in the days, you'd never be able to do that. So it's crazy now that you can like pretty much stand somewhere and you can look at something and you're just like, oh wait, let me just quickly take a drone and send it there, just to go and see what it's all about. Yeah, I know like our pictures aren't clear, but that's why we've got the GoPro to pretty much give us that HD vision.
That'll be the next big great breakthrough. If you want to see FPV take off, let someone figure out how to give us live without delay HD streaming.
I think that's pretty much happening now on the Red Bull circuits, if I'm not mistaken. Ben Finky FPV, him and another pilot, they've got the GoPros streaming live at the Red Bull.
No, I mean fast enough for us to fly with. Like the lag must be none.
They've done that with Connex. It's just not full HD. It's only 720p. And it's only at 30 frames a second, and the other problem with it is the transmitters are massive. It's expensive.
Like a brick.
Yeah, and you only transmit at 125 milliwatts, so you can't go like stupidly far. But I mean, that's all just held back by technology. I mean, they can't make that transmitter any smaller than it currently is with the tech that they have at the moment. In 2 years from now, it's going to be the same size as a flight controller. In 10 years from now,
size of most drone bodies.
Exactly, racing quads especially.
Can you imagine? Yeah, no, I think that would definitely be breakthrough technology.
I know DJI are working on a system called the OcuSync.
But is OcuSync old already? Like what they're using currently? It's just
there's a version 2 coming.
They should get those time delays down.
Wait, explain this to me. What's this OcuSync?
So OcuSync is essentially a DJI only /RC product where you can take your radio, hook it to your pair of DJI goggles, and then it uses DJI's magical ultra long range HD /control link from the goggles to the OcuSync, which is basically a video /control transmitter receiver. And then that will relay control to the quad and take the video from the camera and transmit it back in HD. So I think the new one can even do 1440p. But at full HD, there is a bit of latency. I mean, that's what we had to carry in China on the quads. That was what that weird thing with the 2 mushroom antennas pointing in either direction. That was what we had to carry on top. Yeah, so it's coming. I don't know what the delay on version 2 is like. I know the only flyable delay on version 1 is 480p. But I think on version 2, they are saying you get about a 25 millisecond or 30 millisecond delay on 720p.
That's awesome.
Dude, that's madness.
That's awesome. I'll fly that.
And I think it goes up to like something like 50 something on 960p, which is close to 1080. I mean, 50 is flyable. I mean, one of the first CADX race cameras that came out that everyone was raving about was 50 milliseconds latency, and very few people complained.
50 is fine for most freestyle. Races I can understand, but most freestyle guys will be fine with 50.
And just as you said, like for racing, 50 you could understand. But then again, you don't need that high resolution for racing. A gate is a gate. There's no death string trap that's
Yeah,
hanging through a
exactly.
gate that you are intentionally supposed to avoid.
I repeat.
So true, dude.
I just want HD for immersion. That's it. That's all I want HD for, so I can fill my HD 7-inch screen in my goggles with nice HD footage.
What they gotta do is they gotta have a 360 cam on the quad with head tracking or on a wing. Then you gotta set it flying through a big cave or something in a mountain or a tunnel, and then you set it to a constant attitude and you can look around with head tracking. That would be damn cool.
Imagine getting that 360 tracking.
Well, I know they got
HD
it on the one plane that a company made. It might be Sky RC, I'm not sure. But it's got this massive dome on the front, and you put a GoPro in it, and it's got a gimbal. And then with the Fat Shark goggles that have head tracking built in, you can actually move the GoPro around, I think, 60 degrees in either direction or 50 degrees in either direction. So it's not 360, but you can sort of look around, which is cool.
That's madness, dude. Mad technology, eh? Technology. But yeah, speaking about this future equipment, just one thing I wanted to actually speak on was the whole, with regards to gear and that, if we had to, verse like the old gear versus the new gear that we get today, let's think about software, for instance. Buks, you were actually mentioning to me earlier today, before we came on the podcast, something about firmware.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, I wonder how people react. Like, some people, if version 4.0 comes out, they load it. 4.1 comes out today, those are evening, they're testing it. Some people load the latest and greatest always on software and on all the hardware, and some people, I've got an older flight controller, I'm happy with it, my quad's flying fine, I don't mess with it. Like, I'm still running the same firmware, Jadon, since when I was there with you.
Okay.
I haven't changed in like a year, and it flies fine. I've tuned it, but I haven't changed with firmware. It's working. So it was just like, yeah.
Like, when I built my first race quad, Betaflight 3.1.6 was the latest thing out. That was when I built my first America. And to be honest, I don't think I've ever had a quad feel better on the sticks than that quad, because I had zero filtering, nothing running. It had lots of prop wash, but I had the gyro turned up as fast as it could go on that flight controller, which was 8K. And that flew amazing, but there was tons of prop wash. Then 3.2 came out. I tried it on my freestyle quad. I went, nah, not really. Not worth reflashing my tune and everything. Then 3.4 came out. I tried it on my freestyle quad again. I stuck with it on my freestyle quad. I still stuck with 3.1.6 on my race quads. When I changed from 3.1.6 on my race quads was when I had to start preparing for China, because that was when I had to carry a lot more weight on my quad than what I tuned for, and I didn't think that primitive filtering, as we can call it now, would be able to actually accomplish that. So then I started fiddling around. I ended up flying on Butterflight, and it did the job okay.
Butterfly was a weird era, eh?
It was, and it still went on after a while, and it still flies amazing, but it stopped being developed now because the developers are basically abandoning the project. And when I switched to 4.0.0, the only reason I switched was what was Joshua Bardwell's title on his video? Like, I read the title of that video, I was like, this is going to be good. And then when I watched the video through and I saw where to download it, I tried it and I was like, cool. When this comes out, I'm flashing every single quad I own to this firmware. And that's what I did. But otherwise, I don't usually, and I've tried Flight 1 in between, and it was awesome. And then that was by recommendation from Joshua, actually. And then, yeah, Flight 1 started having issues with the tech, then went back to Betaflight on 4.0. But otherwise, I don't usually change firmware unless I can like watch everyone who's trying the firmware going, this is revolutionary and you should try it. If there's one person that says that, cool. But if 95% of the other people who try it say, you know what, if your quad's stuck on 2 years ago firmware, do it. But if it's stuck on 6 months ago firmware, don't bother. Then don't bother.
And yourself, Grizzly, what is your on-take with the whole?
As I said, like I think I'm still on 3.2. I
Yeah.
don't switch out. If something I've learned it when I was forever. As 'n ding nie jekkie moet jy krappie. It's not bother. If it's not bothering you, don't mess with it, bro. Just let it
If
be.
it broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there we go. That's definitely, especially if I could say, especially in this hobby, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Definitely. But with regards to software, I must be honest. I must be the same. Like when I was flying beta flight, and I think 3.2 came out, then I was on 3.1.8 at the time, if I'm not mistaken. And I actually updated to 3.2, and because of the new filters that were added in 3.2, I had to actually jump back to 3.1.8. Just to get my quad locked, back into that lock again, if I could say. So it's definitely, in the beginning, it's more of a hype. But for me, my biggest lesson, and I think this is something that IT could have actually taught me, is if a software or a firmware or any piece of hardware gets released, like for instance, if 3.2 gets released, I'll rather wait for 3.2.1 to get released, and then I'll jump to 3.2, just to test it out, just to see what the filters are. And I mean, at that time, if 3.2.1 got released, that means all the 3.2's bugs must at least be ironed out and so forth.
Or all of the ones that make it a problem would have been, Because I remember
exactly.
a while ago, like this happened on Flight 1 sometimes, is there would be the changelog for the new firmwares, and then the previous 2 versions, there'd be 2 updates. Like, we fixed a bug where on some people's flight controllers that had a different batch of gyros, for some reason the smart audio would bug out every now and then. So it's not a bug that makes it a problem. It's just a bug that one person goes, you know what, this is kind of painful, please fix it.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest, the community all over the world, in fact, is very vocal, especially when it comes to bugs and any piece of hardware that they've recently received and, having problems with. I remember Butterfly, going back to that, that's definitely one of the biggest pieces of software, if I could say, that got the most not backlash, but the most commented on. You had literally like the group that absolutely loved it, and then the group that absolutely hated it.
I was in the group that absolutely loved it.
Myself as well. I can definitely agree with you on that side. I was definitely on the side of it. Definitely made my flight characteristics feel a whole lot smoother, as opposed to beta flight. But then when I wanted to go back to beta flight and I plugged my quad in, it would always come up with butterfly, the logo. So even if I flashed it and all of that, so that was actually quite cool. But yeah, I don't think necessarily if like I said, if new firmware comes up, it's really up to you if you want to be part of the crew that jumps onto the hype and jumps to the new firmware. But I mean, if Buks, you said you're still on 3.2, hey?
I think it's 2 or 2.2 or somewhere down there.
To be honest, if you do yourself a favor, right, and if you've got a spare flight controller just laying around, if you're fortunate enough, if I could say, and you've got a spare flight controller laying around, you must just plug it in and upgrade it to the new, what's the latest firmware? Is it 4 now, eh?
Yeah,
It's 4.0.4.
I think that's a big reason why I don't do it, is because I don't have space. So if something it works, I don't want to mess the one I have up. So that's why.
Well, I can vouch for you right now. If you flash to not the latest 4, but if you flash to Betaflight 4.0.0, you will not be disappointed. It's the first time I'd say in Betaflight versions that it is such a massive step up, just in terms of what it comes configured like, that I would say it's worth flashing.
But
unless your quad is flying basically perfectly, then yeah, there's the argument that you don't have to. But from my point of view, I would.
But the filters, the amount of filters that are on the, I've recently built a toothpick, if I could say, and I recently upgraded to the new Betaflight, and the amount of filters that are on there, man. Where do you even start, other than watching a Joshua Bardwell video? that you're going to learn something today, you know.
Mm.
But I mean, how do you even? There's no manual to say this is what filter A, B, and C is, you know. I mean, if you had to try and figure that out, you know. I mean, Jadon, speaking from your personal point of view on Betaflight, what would you say is the best way to approach those filters? Do you say switch them on, mess around with them? Do you say take a laptop to the field? Or how would you approach that?
I haven't actually fiddled around with Betaflight 4.0, and it's not something good. I have to, because my quads are starting to oscillate now in the colder air, the more dense air. But I need to actually learn how to tune it. But from most things that are minor at a race, I'll find someone who's fiddled around with Betaflight 4.0, because they changed a lot of the way things work, and I'll ask them for their help. But otherwise, with the previous Betaflights, I followed Stinger Swarm's tuning videos, which were usually basically spot on, and then I just went from there. Otherwise, yeah, I'll just ask the community, and there's bound to be the local Joshua Bardwell, if you know what I mean, that will know sort of what's going on, at least.
Hashtag Griffiths.
And yourself, Grizzly?
Nah, I don't mess too much in the tuning. I still need to dig there. I haven't done the time investment to learn and dig deeper into tuning. I'm lacking in that department when it comes to the drones.
So are you still rocking stock tune?
For sure. No, Goose has tuned mine when he was here a little bit, and then that's about it.
Okay, well then, then you should definitely try 4.0.
Just give it a go, bro, and then you can give us feedback.
I think.
Will do.
Otherwise, what you could always do if you want to be double safe is somehow find that release of Betaflight that you have on your flight controller right now. Dump the CLI. Then if you go to 4.0 and you're like, no, this isn't for me, you can always just reflash
back. Yeah, for sure. No, I'll definitely dive into it. I'm not scared of diving into it. It's just been the time investment.
Change is as good as a holiday, man. Maybe it will be the best change you've ever done. Maybe it could be the worst change you've ever done. So you never really know.
But everything I've seen has been improved. So like, it's just been the time investment.
Oh. And if I could end off with asking you guys this question, Jadon, starting with you, your pre-flight check. What do you do before you head out? You know, what is your routine, if I could say? You know, what do you do? Do you check your quads before you go out? Do you make sure your batteries are charged?
So,
do you have your remote? Do you clean your lens? Do you wear specific underpants? Do you have special socks? You know, those kind of things.
Yeah. So my pre-flight check, if I know I'm going to go flying tomorrow, I fly the IX-12, which takes a while to charge because you charge it via USB and it's got a massive battery in it. So radio goes on charge the night before. My goggle 18650s go on charge the night before. Then I know by the time I get up that morning, that thing is as charged as it can get. That's cool. Then quad batteries are all charged. I check them, obviously. Then just before I'm going to fly a quad, my routine is I clean the lens, I make sure everything is good. I've had it before where I've flown a quad and landed, and then I pick it up by the one motor and both motor screws just go ploop, and the whole motor's loose, which can be very bad in flight. So before I'm going to go fly a quad, like after 3 or 4 flights, I check each motor, make sure the props are tight, like nothing's visually off on the quad. Before a flying session, like if I know I'm going to go to a race or something, I'll just take a screwdriver and I'll just check all the screws. If I know the quad's flying perfect, then obviously it's flying perfect. And then on the day, check you have a charged battery, make sure it is strapped in damn tight. Then make sure everything's right. And this is something that I've always done. I don't plug in my quad until I'm ready to put it down and get away from it, because I've heard horror stories of quads just out of the blue on the most stable firmware out there. Plug it in, it goes do, and one of the motors just goes balls to the wall, full throttle straight into you, and you get chopped up. That's bad. So I don't want that to happen. So when I plug in my quad,
hashtag remove props, eh?
Yes,
hashtag
if you're working on it. Or if you're gonna work on your quad and you wanna plug it in just to see something, hold the thing with it facing away from you, then plug it in. Don't hold the thing facing props towards your stomach on your shirt, then plug it in, and then hope nothing goes wrong. Just hold it away from you, plug it in, then if nothing goes wrong, then inspect it. Otherwise, if I'm going to go fly and it's a freestyle quad and I can't do that, I'll plug it in upside down in the ground so that can't happen. Or race quad, plug it in, put it down, and before the ESC's finished beeping, I've got my radio in my hand ready to fly.
Yeah. And yours, Grizzly? What is your pre-flight check, if I could say?
Pretty much the same, but before I go out, I like park my drone on the bench, and I just grab that hex driver and run through every nut, just like every bolt, just check it. I've had bolts fall out as well, so I think that's important. And then check your props, man. I've flown with loose props, and that's not it. Often you'll just crash out or whatever, but it spoils the whole thing. So check props. And then check your batteries. Don't fly on a dead battery. I've got a nice system where I've got little like caps on my batteries. If it's a charged battery, it's got a cap on. If I've used it, I take the cap off. Like on the XT60. So I've got like that system. If there's no cap on it, I don't fly it. And then obviously you've got your mobile, like your little battery checker. And I always, before I power up, I check it with that checker. Because packs are expensive, bro.
Yeah, they are.
I maintain mine as well as I can. And just make sure you're not being silly with where you check up, and put your controller on before you plug your drone in. Man, I've seen many guys just plug the drone in, park it on the ground there, and then power up their TX. That freaks me out.
That's another thing. In theory, it should be fine, but then if you haven't set up failsafe and for some reason you have one of those quads that out of the box with Betaflight's failsafe just doesn't failsafe properly, I have seen it happen before. On the ground, cool, switching radio on, and the quad just goes, cool, I'm going to the moon, and it goes.
Yeah.
That's why I'm called when I joined the FPV community, I called myself Grizzly. Because the first drone I got was Eachine Wizard 220X. Those wonderful things. I got it, excited, chuffed, know nothing about this hobby. Put this thing on the bed. Wife's like, cool, she's checking out this new drone. I plug this thing in and I step back. This thing decides, wife's face, target. Full speed.
Oh no.
Full throttle for the wife's face. I had one simple choice. Wife's face or my hand? It mauled my hand.
Oh yeah, dude.
That's why it's called.
There was no choice there. Let's be honest. But I think if your pre-flight checks are definitely important. It's pretty lame that none of you guys wear special underpants or socks or anything. So I'm gonna give you guys minus.
I have a special shirt, but like I feel like a lot of people have special shirt for FPV. So.
Well, there we go. You see.
Do you really think we'll tell you that on live podcast?
Does it count if you have an armband?
I don't know. I'm not in control of the point system. You see, I'm not in control of the point system. But do any of you guys take laptops to the fields, or do you have like a phone app that you use?
I've heard SpeedyB is pretty epic.
I just use the OSD. Like most of the times, I figure if I'm going for a normal flying session, I'll just use the OSD. Otherwise, at a race, maybe I'll use a laptop. But then again, there's always that guy that brings a laptop to a race, at least at our races. But most of the times, I figure if I'm going for a flying session and I know my quads work, anything I need to do, the OSD should be more than enough to do.
Okay. Yeah, no, but that is true. That is true. Betaflight has OSD. I know KISS has OSD. So I think Raceflight has OSD, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Flight 1 also has OSD. I have never used it for configuration ever. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, my pre-flight checks are pretty much, not really the same, but they're similar. I always check, but the one thing I also check for is loose cables. Just to make sure that because you literally leave the house and then you go to the field and you plug your drone in, and wow, your video is great. You look at your quad and you examine it and you can't see anything to only see a little ground wire that's popped off or something. So I always try and inspect my drone as much as possible, but make sure batteries are charged the night before. If I'm flying in the afternoon, I prefer to charge them early morning. So yeah, that's. But yeah, I think that's some good pre-flight checks that you guys have mentioned.
Another thing actually that you can like add if you're a main freestyle pilot is check either one that you have multiple SD cards or a clean SD card or a way that you can back up footage off an SD card like a laptop or something if you don't have more than one. Because if you go fly an epic spot, there's nothing worse than having all your footage from the day on that SD card, then on your second last or last pack you lose your quad with the GoPro and boom, there goes all your footage.
Yeah, that's true.
That's one thing I could say I'm very happy with, that I've got in my routine. After every single flight that I do, DVR footage and GoPro footage gets removed off my camera straight away. Literally take that stuff and then put it back in, and I put it aside. Then I know it's done. Like literally, it's the first thing I do when I get back to my place.
Yeah, me too. I clean it, but what Jadon was saying is if you lose your quad or something, then it's all gone.
that as well. Like, but then you should get into that routine of like if you're going to be doing epic spots, you know, and you come back, try and swap it with another SD card kind of thing. Or if you go into a different spot, you know, not necessarily the same spot. If you fly in the same spot, keep the same SD card. But if you're going to be flying multiple spots, try and have a different SD card for each location. So if you do end up losing your drone, then at least you've still got the footage from the previous location.
What actually happened to me, which was really sucky, was I was flying and I did this epic, really high flight. Granted the clouds were very low that day because they were rain clouds, but I was about probably 2/3 of the way to cloud level. And I came back, got the footage, it was epic. Then 2 days later, I went to go just have a little pack in my yard, and I crashed. It corrupted the SD card, so I lost all of that cloud footage.
Why didn't you back it up?
Because I was being stupid.
No routine.
Exactly, no routine.
Okay, all right. But yeah, I think on that we're gonna be closing up the podcast unless you guys want to add anything more to the pod.
What's the hashtag? We have a hashtag every podcast.
What is the hashtag? I had the hashtag previously. Now I need to think about it. Hashtag no props. There we go.
Yes, hashtag no props.
Hashtag no props. That's it.
Cool beans. Are we gonna let them in on a little secret there, Lyle?
You can let them know. You can let them know.
This is for the few people that actually listen through the whole thing.
Yeah. So if you've made it this far, then you're gonna be interested you're gonna get to know something that I don't think a few people are gonna get to know.
And you're a legend.
Yeah. I don't know how. Let's see how many people find it by themselves. That we're going to have Onigiri on next week. So I don't know if you guys know Onigiri. That's Noelle. She's a pilot. She is a pilot in Australia. And we'll have her on next week.
Boom. That's what's up. But thanks Buks for joining us on this podcast, man. And dude, you're definitely going to be on the next one with a special guest. So I'm looking really forward to that. And once again, thanks for hooking that up for us.
No.
And Jadon, thank you, man, for joining me on this journey thus far. It's been 6 so far. But until the next one, which is going to be episode 7 or session 7, we'll catch you guys on the flip-flop, and happy flying.
Epic, happy flying.
Cool, man. Thanks, guys. It was awesome.
Peace out.
Yeah, it was.